Yep, we're reading from George Orwell's 1984, and one of the best novels ever written. I've enjoyed it over the years several times, and I'm enjoying it again as I read it to you. So let's continue. You're a traitor, yelled the boy. You're a thought criminal. You're a Eurasian spy. I'll shoot you. I'll vaporize you. I'll send you to the salt mines. Suddenly they were both leaping around him, shouting traitor and thought criminal, the little girl imitating her brother in every movement. It was somehow slightly frightening, like the gambling of tiger cubs, which will soon grow up into man-eaters. There was a sort of calculating ferocity in the boy's eye, a quite evident desire to hit or kick Winston, and the consciousness of being very nearly big enough to do so. It was a good job it was not it was a good job it was not a real pistol he was holding, Winston thought. Miss Parsons' eye flitted nervously from Winston to the children and back again. In the better light of the living room he noticed with interest that there actually was dust in the creases of her face. They get they do get so noisy, she said. They're disappointed because they couldn't go to see the hanging. That's what it is. I'm too busy to take them, and Tom won't be back from work in time. Why can't we go and see the hanging? Roared the boy in a huge voice. Want to see the hanging, want to see the hanging, chanted the little girl, still capering around. Some Eurasian prisoners guilty of war crimes were to be hanged in the park that evening. Winston remembered. This happened about once a month and was a popular spectacle. Children always clamored to be taken to see it. He took his leave of Miss Parsons and made for the door, but he had not gone 6 steps down the passage when something hit the back of his neck, an agonizingly painful blow. It was as though a red-hot fire had been jabbed into him. He spun around just in time to see Miss Parsons dragging her son back into the doorway while the boy pocketed a catapult. Goldstein, bellowed the boy as the door closed on him. But what most struck Winston was the look of helpless fright on the woman's grayish face. Back in the flat, he stepped quickly past the telescreen and sat down on the table, still rubbing his neck. The music from the telescreen had stopped. Instead, a clipped military voice was reading out, with a sort of brutal relish, a description of the armaments of the new floating fortress, which had been anchored between Iceland and the Faroe Islands. With those children, he thought, that wretched woman must lead a life of terror. Another year, 2 years, and they would be watching her night and day for symptoms of unorthodoxy. Nearly all children nowadays were horrible. What was worse of all was that by means of such organizations as the spies, they were systematically turned into ungovernable little savages. And yet this produced in them no tendency whatever to rebel against the discipline of the party. On the contrary, they adored the party and everything connected with it. The songs, the processions, the banners, the hiking, the drilling with dummy rifles, the yelling of slogans, the worship of Big Brother, it was all sort of glorious, or sort of it was all a sort of glorious game to them. All their ferocity was turned outwards against the enemies of the state, against foreigners, traitors, saboteurs, thought criminals. It was almost normal for people over 30 to be frightened of their own children. And with good reason, for hardly a week passed in which the Times did not carry a photograph describing how some eavesdropping little sneak, child hero was the phrase generally used, had overheard some compromising remark and denounced his parents to the thought police. The sting of the catapult bullet had worn off. He picked up his half-heartedly wondering whether he could find something more to write in the diary. Suddenly he began thinking of O'Brien again. Years ago, how long was it? 7 years it must be. He had dreamed that he was walking through a pitch-dark room, And someone sitting to one side of him had said as he passed, "We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness." It was said very quietly, almost casually, a statement, not a command. He had walked on without pausing. What was curious was that at the time, in the dream, the words had not made much impression on him. It was only later and by degrees that they seemed to take on significance. He could not now remember whether it was before or after having the dream that he had seen O'Brien for the first time. Nor could he remember when he had first identified the voice as O'Brien's. But at any rate, the identification existed. It was O'Brien who had spoken to him out of the dark. And children, being scared of our youth. But the thing is, when we don't provide the space for our youth to grow, then other systems and organizations will. And today, with the internet, it should be much easier for us to give our children and our young people the space they need to develop, to grow, and to take care of all of their needs, right? And be able to feed their creativity as well. So we need to get on the ball, okay? And that's basically it. Or else they will turn against us. No doubt about it. Until next time, thank you for your support. Take care of your mind, take care of your body, and be safe.